I have been recently on the Unreal Engine grind to max up my rank in UE5 and be able to change my Twitter bio to indie developer. And also a little bit to prepare for Creative 2.0. However, I set myself daily goals and challenges to not be overwhelmed by learning everything at once. So one day I sat down and thought, wouldn't it be a great idea to make my own Fortnite collab inside UE5? Which is not easy, since Fortnite basically has every collab under the sun, and everything already exists in Fortnite. But there's one collab which I heard a lot of rumors recently that it potentially could come to Fortnite, but it's not out yet. And it is perfect, since there's already probably a ton of fan-made stuff. Yeah, Lego. I thought it was a good idea. Turned out it was definitely not. The daily challenge turned into probably a weekly, or maybe 2 or even more, and I, well, lost my mind multiple times. But since I already started and had an idea in mind, I thought I'd finish it. The journey began with me thinking, stupidly, that I could just get a free, already rigged Lego model and could just use it and do some Unreal Engine magic to make it run, walk, and I would just be done in a day or two. The first thing I realized is that there were a ton of Lego models, but none of them were rigged for Unreal Engine 5. And that is one of the most important criteria I was looking for. For one, it would save a lot of time, but second and most importantly, I could avoid blender. See, a model is all great, but it is useless unless it has a rig or skeleton. A skeleton is basically just bones which can move the body parts around so you can animate it. Otherwise, they're just a sack of meshes that don't do anything. But just placing the bones in the right positions would turn out to be the easiest part. The real thing which killed my time was the weight painting. Just placing the bones isn't just not everything. You also need to have muscles which move the bone. But in our case, the muscles are basically the weight painting. And I had no idea how to do weight painting. I've never done it before, and I'm also fairly new to Blender. There is default automated weight painting, and there's even paid ones, which I both used, and they're both not really worked for that model. I'm not sure why exactly it didn't work. Maybe I just did something wrong. I learned that it's normal that you still have to weight paint afterwards anyways, if you want to have it good or just decently looking at most. So I learned how to weight paint. I also had the genius idea to make a custom Jonesy skin for my Lego character, because why not? I'm already tortured enough, so I can also torture myself with something else, which I haven't tried before. Well, for the skin, I first of all stole Jonesy's hair from the original actual Jonesy skin and just slapped it on the Lego head, which actually worked out quite well. It looks actually pretty decent. Well, then I only had to do a face and a body paint, because usually Lego characters are not like that crazy detailed, so I can do that myself, and actually had the most fun doing that. I also learned a little bit of Blender's texture painting, which was also helpful to add a few details here and there, but that was actually the most fun I had with Blender the entire time that I used Blender. But after all that was done and I could port my first ever rigged weight painted texture painted character to UE5, well, there was one more thing to do. And that was actually finishing the Black Ops 2 zombie run that I was playing the entire time while trying to not lose my mind while weight painting. But being trapped in a program that I had basically no idea of how to use, once in UE5 I felt like it was my home turf. The first thing I had to make was fairly simple, was just create a simple walking, running, jumping animations, and in UE5 that is super simple if you have the default mannequin animations. All you have to do is create an IK rig, which is basically just chaining all the bones correctly, making sure that they're all lined up perfectly, and then all you have to do is just retarget them, so you basically just copy them over from the Unreal Engine 5 mannequin to your character. In my case, the Lego Jonesy, and it worked quite well. But just having a character that can run, walk is pretty simple, and it's not really Fortnite. There are 3 main things which make Fortnite Fortnite. And it is 1, emotes. So basically the same process here, because it's basically also just another animation. I can rig the Fortnite emote, retarget it to the Lego Jonesy, and boom, we have a Fortnite emote on Lego Jonesy. Number 2 was adding guns. That was not as easy as just adding an emote, but it was also not extremely hard. Step 1 is getting the gun animations, which you can also get from Unreal Engine. Yay! They have a free pack on the Unreal Engine market where you can basically have all kinds of third-person animations with guns in all kinds of scenarios. However, there was one little problem with this pack. The pack is for an older version and even uses the old Unreal Engine 4 mannequin. So what I had to do is basically migrate all the assets over to my project in a different version of the Unreal Engine, which is not a hard thing to do, but it just takes a little extra step. And then all I have to do is just make the same thing, retarget them to my character, and they're good to go. They're not perfect by any means, and they're like glitching out at some points, and I could probably make them a little bit more cleaner and make them look a little bit nicer if I would have spent a little bit more time on the weight painting. So now I had basically 2 sets of animations which I just added while using a button switch. So every time I press a button, we go into the shooting mode, and every time we press the button again, we go back into normal mode. The only thing that was obviously missing is an actual gun. So I imported the SCAR model, made sure that it's in the right hand, we're done. I also went a little bit creative here, and instead of making the gun disappear when I switch the modes, I actually put it on the back of Jonesy, which I think looks kinda dank. So now that we had a gun and a default dance, there's one last thing missing. And that is the biggest thing that makes Fortnite Fortnite, and it is obviously building. So the last and final step was adding our first real mechanic to our character. You can do mechanics in Unreal Engine either with C++ or Blueprints, which is visual coding, kind of like devices in Fortnite Creative. After a few tutorials and a few forum posts, I created this. You don't see anything? Yeah. I accidentally made the building pieces disappear very far away from the character. And all because I added a plus instead of a multiplication. It took me 2 hours to find out that I just made a typo, basically. So now that I can actually see my building pieces and they're basically in front of me, I had to make sure that I can also place them down, basically creating a building mode. As the building pieces, I used props from Fortnite Creative because I did not have the original ones, and I really did not want to go back to Blender to make them. So yeah, we just used this piece. I think it's from the Pandora's Gallery, and it worked out fine. It looks kind of like a scuffed version of the metal, since we're already creating a scuffed Fortnite. So the last and final thing I had to do is give them a little bit of rotation so I can actually rotate them while cranking 90s. Well, if you would consider that cranking 90s. And with that, I created my own little Fortnite collab inside UE5. Well, it's not Fortnite, obviously, but, you know, you can emote, hold a gun, and you can crank 90s. More or less.